Hey, this is Decoy from DecoyNoise, and today we are covering 3 Am I the Antagonist stories, with the featured story being Am I the Antagonist for yelling at my parents that their polyamory messed up my childhood? So we're going to switch things up quite a bit. We're going to be doing 3 different Am I the Antagonist stories. We'll read the entire post, I'll cover the top and controversial comments, and then we go to Decoy Court where I give you my definitive decision on whether they're the antagonist or not. I will provide the timestamps in the description if you want to kind of skip around, but let's go ahead and get to the story right now. So OP wrote, I believe it started when I was around 6 years old. My parents often had friends over in the house. I didn't know that they were polyamorous, of course. One day I was outside playing, got hurt, and when I ran inside, I caught my parents making out with some random guy. They told me that they have other adults that they love and it's a completely normal thing. Me being a child, just accepted that. They gave up being secretive and their partners would constantly be around, even joining in on outings. I remember that on my 10th birthday, they invited 3 of their partners, one of who I'd never seen before, and for the rest of the day my parents just withdrew from my party and hung out with them. I never saw them doing anything explicit again, but they would kiss their partners, hug them, and make flirty comments, something that would be normal between parents but with many other people. Sometimes I came home from school and my parents were gone and there was some random adult in our house. Some of them seemed surprised that my parents even had a child. I always hated it, but since my parents had told me this was normal, I assumed many adults probably did similar things and that it's just an adult thing all kids hate. Later, they had less partners and eventually seemed to stop. Not that I'd know for sure because I moved out at 17. I didn't think about it anymore. A year ago I started therapy, other reasons. As usual, the topic of my upbringing came up and they brought back many feelings that I wasn't aware of. I realized that although my parents were always good to me, I have never really felt close to any of them, and still had a lot of resentment that they made me feel like I had to compete for my parents' attention with random strangers. A while ago, I visited them and they told me that they were going to take part in a documentary about polyamorous families and that the producers would like to include me in the interviews with the children, so they would love if I could agree and tell everyone that polyamory doesn't mess kids up. All my resentment bubbled up and I said I cannot agree because I would not be able to say anything positive. My parents looked shocked. I had never brought this up before and asked why. And I unloaded all that I always felt pushed aside. We barely had any family time without strangers intruding. It turned me into an argument and I became loud and yelled that the truth is it did mess me up and they shouldn't have had a child if their number one priority was messing with the whole world. Well, not messing, but hooking up with the entire world. My mother cried and my father said I should probably leave. So I left and was shaken up for the rest of the week, but also felt regret because I'd never made my mom cry before. Later, my father sent me a message that was like, "We are sorry you feel that way. Can we have a calm discussion about this soon?" Even though I tried to, it's like I can't reply. This argument brought up something very emotional to me. So, am I the antagonist for hurting my parents over this, especially since I never brought it up before? So normally we would kind of cut this away and do some Decoy Court, but let's go ahead and switch things up and just go right into the top comments right now. So the top comment that got some, I don't know what that is. It's like a firework kind of shooting through the sky right there, but let's go ahead and read this top comment. So they say, "You're not the antagonist. Do not back down and allow them to get you to recant." OP, notice that they said, "We're sorry you feel this way," not "We're sorry for doing X, Y, and Z." They gave you a non-apology for making your childhood basically a wallflower to adultery with strangers, no less. This blew up like soda and Mentos. Thank you, kind strangers. They got 43,000 upvotes. That's crazy. And the next reply was, "What sort of parent allows their kid to come home alone to a stranger in the house that they didn't even know they had a kid existed? Good to me, my butt. That's horrible parenting." And I do agree with that right there. The next reply was, "Not the antagonist. It wasn't your parents' polyamory that messed you up, although it was their bad parenting. They allowed strange adults around you all the time and neglected you when those strangers were around. They put you in potentially dangerous situations by doing so. Having a committed poly partner who is not a stranger and known to you probably would have been fine, but a string of randoms or new people that would seriously mess up any kid." And I'm starting to agree with this. So one more top reply was, "Not the antagonist. Really? They would leave complete strangers in the house without them for you to come home to? They made their adult lives in front and center and their priority? Any child would present that. So I do understand that all those are probably going to be the generally accepted answers, but maybe we'll find something controversial that's going to make us think a different way." And the next reply, controversial reply, was, "Not the antagonist. Polyamory is messed up." And then somebody commented before and they say, "Monogamy is great for monogamous people. I agree that having one special person feels very meaningful and I wouldn't feel right or capable of having those kind of feelings for more than one person at a time. That's because I'm a monogamous person, but not everyone experiences relationships that way. Polyamory is perfectly valid, and just like every other kind of relationship, can be perfectly healthy and happy when approached with clear and open communications and respect for your partner or partners. I assume they have multiple friends, right? Okay, wait, is this one gonna go? Okay, that one's just gonna go for far too long. Okay, so they're for polyamory. We get it. So the next reply was removed by the moderator, and then wow, they removed a lot of things right here. So one more controversial reply is poly in itself is fine, but they let their bad parenting become exasperated by their choice of having a poly relationship. I'm terribly sorry that you dealt with this, and I'm glad you stood up to them. I would say to accept having that talk with them though, with your therapist present if you trust them. I think your parents are probably blindsided that you were hurting so bad. It doesn't make it okay, but it is an explanation for their reaction. They truly believe you are well adjusted with no issues. That's what I hope, at least. At worst, they could be willfully denying your experience because it didn't fit in their worldview, but you won't know until you talk it out, and preferably with a mediator. Whatever your choice is, I wish you the best of luck. So knowing all that, we gotta not rush it over, but we're going to Decoy Code. I'm giving you my not so knee-jerk reaction to this situation, but it does seem that everybody understands that this wasn't necessarily the polyamory that messed up the kid. It was the neglectful parenting. It was the idea that they put their adult flings front and center, where it was like his 10th birthday, but no, it wasn't about OP's 10th birthday. It was about, hey, let's get together all three of our extra wing partners, whatever you call that, and bringing them all together so they can have like a fun little romp night or whatever you're gonna call it. And it's super messed up, and I see why. If OP was always a kid and just didn't realize that this is not a normal thing, like not everybody else's parents just have a whole bunch of swingers coming through the house, that he would just think it's okay and every kid hates this. So now that they're an adult, realizing it's not a thing, talking to a therapist, realizing that's probably a deep-seated reason why they're not, I want to say messed up, but, you know, resentful towards their parents, it just kind of makes sense that they would be blindsided by it. And not only OP would be blindsided by the fact that this hurt them so much, but the parents were, because, you know, when's the last time you had a 10-year-old kid being able to articulate the complex relationship they have with their parents at their birthday party, and why they're strangers and what's really going on? We don't understand it. No, it's just one of those things that as adults they should have this conversation. That other person said that a mediator should be there. I'm not exactly certain if that would be helpful or not, but I mean, I'm just gonna go ahead and say with this right here, OP, you're not the antagonist. This is probably the best thing for you to do, is just either, like, you know, cut away for your own mental health, but if you feel comfortable, maybe this will help provide some closure later on in the relationship. So let's go ahead and get to the next post right now, which is, am I the antagonist for calling the cops when my boyfriend's sister left her children with me for a few days, which ended up getting her a felony charge? Okay, so let's go ahead and get to this post right now. So OP wrote, I'm pretty sure that I'm the antagonist here, but I did not think something this bad would happen. This happened about a year ago. Me and my boyfriend have been together for 5 years. His sister Claire has a 1-year-old baby named Alex. Claire is a single mom and sometimes drops her baby off at our place when she has some errands to run. I'll be honest here, I have no clue how to take care of a baby. I play with the baby, but other than that, my boyfriend usually takes care of Alex. My boyfriend works on site, so he usually isn't home for 4 days and comes home for 3 days. One day, Claire asked my boyfriend if she could drop off Alex for the day. Boyfriend was supposed to leave for work that evening. Since she had said that she will pick up the baby by the evening, he didn't mention that. Big mistake. He left around 5 p.m. I was waiting for Claire and kept calling her. She picked up the phone around 8 p.m. and told me that she went to a place a few hours away with her friends. She told me that a boyfriend could take care of Alex for the next 3 to 4 days. I told her that boyfriend already left for work. Then she just told me, then you take care of Alex. I'll be back in 4 days. Then she hung up on me and switched off her phone. I freaked out hard. I cannot call my boyfriend because he's unreachable on site. Neither of us have family in the state that we could have called. I called a few friends, but no one gave me anything helpful. The bag she gave with Alex only had diapers left in it. The baby was crying her head off and I didn't even know what to do to feed her safely. I literally didn't know what else to do, so I called the police and told them what happened. They directed me to a social worker. While the social worker was helping me take care of the baby, the cops called the cops where she was to locate her. Oh, okay, in a different state. Okay. The cops found her high on drugs, and she had enough on her to classify it as possession and intention to sell. Whoa. Edit, I don't think she actually sold anything, but she probably just brought enough for her and her friends for the next few days. She didn't get any jail time, but had to do community service and pled guilty. Unfortunately, that also meant she got a felony conviction. This got her fired, and she hasn't been able to hold a good job since. In my defense, I only wanted her to come back because I didn't want anything to happen to Alex because I'm not a capable human being of taking care of her. I did not think she was doing anything that could get her arrested. In her defense, she had left Alex at her home plenty of times, so it's not unreasonable for her to think that I would have no problem taking care of Alex for the few days. Also, this was probably the first time she took a break from for herself since Alex was born. My boyfriend was pissed at the beginning but came around later. Their parents also think I wasn't in the wrong. She obviously hates me and thinks I ruined her life because she wanted a break for a few days. This got brought up recently at a family dinner, which is why I asked, so, am I the antagonist? And as we normally took it to decoy court, but we skipped that right now. We're just going to go ahead and get to the top comments right now. So they said, not the antagonist. Only a few diapers for 3 to 4 days? Dropping off a baby without agreeing a time frame and then going to get high with friends? I don't think your boyfriend's sister is ready to be a mom. This is either a great wake-up call for her or a sign that the baby should be elsewhere. Your intention was to ensure the baby was safe. That automatically makes you not the antagonist, which is true, and then OP came back to say, when she dropped the baby off, she really meant to pick her up in the evening, which is why the bag didn't have anything but diapers, and the bottles and food she was packed were already empty. Going to another place for a few days was a spontaneous decision. Okay, I'm gonna hold my judgment. And the next reply right there with the fireworks is, well, once you have a child, there's no room for spontaneous decisions. You can't have a child and just spontaneously decide to go on a 4-day trip. That's part of the responsibility that comes with a baby, which is very true. Next reply was, out of the blue for 4 days, I would consider this close to abandonment, which that's exactly what it was, and that's exactly what the next post was. Well, the next reply was, not the antagonist. That is horrifically irresponsible. She didn't let you know she was leaving the kid there for days, and she didn't leave enough diapers or food. She didn't rush back when you asked her to. That's all wrong. So, obviously, the top posts are all going to be on the other side, but maybe we can find some irresponsible parents all over on the controversial side that is going to give us some different insight as to what this would be. So, the top heavily downvoted controversial reply was, the real antagonist here is the justice system giving someone a felony for having some narcotics or whatever, impacting a single mother's ability to have a job and feed a child, which she's clearly having difficulty with. I'm not going to render judgment here because my instinct is to think poorly of you for getting the police involved. I'm an American, I live in a very large city, so things might be differently where you are. Our police are not to be trusted. They are, of course, positioned in our society. Wait, what? Well, this is just gonna be, that's a huge long rant about, okay, they made it about them and how much they don't like the police, but whatever. So somebody else came back to reply saying, you have the most downvotes, but this is the comment I most agree with here. It's a reasonable judgment, and I pretty much totally agree with you. So, okay, I guess let's just go ahead and just cut this right to decoy court, because that's such an interesting take right now, saying that if she's having a hard time being a parent, that instead of punishing her for bad behavior, what is the alternative there? Like giving her a free childcare so she can go out and make more spontaneous decisions, saying it's okay to leave the kid for 4 days. It's like, no. This isn't a single mother having, you know, she's having a hard time raising a child. She's just neglecting the child. We can't just be having this over there. They need to make it very clear right off the bat that, hey, what you did there was not okay. And maybe this is the time for, hey, if you're willing to just drop off your kid without any supplies for 4 days, to go get high with your friends in the next city over, I feel like kind of bad making this like brash like judgment over somebody, but you are 100% the antagonist if you're just willing to do that. And the idea is they say the police are not to be trusted and we don't like this and stuff. It's like, whoa, so who's there to protect the kid? You know what I mean? Like, how did all of a sudden the bad mom, the sister-in-law or whatever, become the victim in this situation? I don't understand that at all. Maybe you guys can drop in the comments below why that would be OP's fault that the sister got in trouble. But back on to what everybody else was saying is, you know, OP's asking, is she the antagonist for calling the police when she didn't have any other idea to do it? And it's like, to be honest, what is she gonna do? Like, she would be more of the antagonist if she's like, you know what, I don't know what to feed this baby, but I got some peanuts, I got some Hot Pockets, and some Diet Dr. Pepper. Okay, let's have at it. Hey, you like it? I like it. Cool, we're good. Like, no, she doesn't know how to take care of a baby. Does she? Wow, that was a weird one. She doesn't know how to take care of a baby. But that was probably the most responsible thing for her to do. So I totally understand it. So aside from my they took our jobs a rant right there, I'm gonna have to go and say not the antagonist. And also, usually when I say, hey, you're not the antagonist, you are the antagonist, I pass my judgment. I never really pass judgment on other people in the story, but I'm gonna go ahead and say that the person that is the antagonist is gonna be the sister-in-law, or yeah, his sister Claire. That was pretty bad. The baby's only 1 year old and you just say, oh yeah, I'm just gonna on a whim go take a 4-day vacation with enough narcotics to constitute possession with intent to distribute. That is a terrible lapse in judgment. Good, she doesn't serve any time, but she has to do some community service, and this will be on a record for a bit. I honestly think that that's the right thing. Like, you're not making good decisions, and you're an adult, and you have a kid. It's time to grow out of the whole thing where it's like, yeah, I'm gonna just, ditch my family and my baby for a couple days because they want to go out and get high. Like, I just don't agree with that at all. But let's go ahead and get to that final story on today's post, which is, am I the antagonist for getting furious at my brother for announcing that his wife was pregnant? Okay, this is going to be interesting right now. So, am I the antagonist for getting... Okay, so it's just the same thing over there. Why is there so much SEO stuff at the bottom? So, okay. So the person wrote, okay, so me, a 21-year-old female at the time, and my brother was 24. Him and his wife, a 20-year-old, had been together at the time for over a year, and they were going strong and overall were a very great couple. His wife was my best friend in high school, so it was a little awkward seeing them together, but I never showed my concern. I was happy for them. Me and my boyfriend have been together since freshman year of high school. He was great, and me and him have always had a very great relationship. I was on birth control, so I knew there was no way I could get pregnant, but I never knew if I ever did it, would it be okay because we both had stable jobs. Okay, yeah, and could emotionally and financially support a baby. Well, to my surprise, I missed my period, which I didn't really notice because I'm on my birth control and so she didn't have signs. So at a scheduled doctor's appointment, I didn't feel like myself, and I found out that I was 5.5 weeks pregnant. It was a shock at first, and my parents were happy and started to get used to being parents, and my boyfriend... we started to get used to being parents, and my boyfriend was so happy he was getting a lot of baby shopping and giving out name ideas. On one morning, I'm not going into detail, but my boyfriend rushed me to the hospital, and it turns out I miscarried, and of course we were heartbroken. We walked into my parents' house and told them the news that we were heartbroken, and then my brother and his wife came over, and it looked like they had something on their mind. Well, my mom told them the sad news about losing a baby, and he said, well, it looks like you're still going to be grandparents, then took out the ultrasound picture and showed them, and he said it was in a very joyous, happy way, and all of a sudden my parents were jumping with joy, and I was standing there in the corner looking helpless. Of course, I was happy for them, but my mouth got the best of me and said, are you effing serious? I was bawling my eyes out, and me and my boyfriend went to the car and left. So 4 to 2 years later, I love my nephew to death, but my brother still brings it up from time to time, and makes me feel bad. But I don't know, am I the antagonist for reacting the way I did? So, whatever, there's some typos in there, but let's go ahead and get to those top comments right now saying, not the antagonist. Holy crap, I was definitely ready to call you the antagonist based on the title, but this is one of the most insensitive things I've ever heard of someone doing. They all suck. A lot. I mean, I kind of agree with that. The next reply was, not the antagonist. It looks like you're still going to be grandparents. Is following the news of your miscarriage is ridiculously insensitive. The reply to that was, I second this. Saying that in the same effing room as a person who just miscarried is just... wow, balls of steel and a heart of fool's gold. The one thing I will say about that right there is just, it's more, I think it's not as much balls of steel as it is a heart of fool's gold, where they don't know how to read the room at all. Like, they thought this was gonna cheer OP up, but it just didn't. But I'll go to the next top comment is saying, not the antagonist. Did your brother even acknowledge that you miscarried, ever? And the next reply was, not really. He acted like it wasn't a big deal since there was gonna be a baby in the family anyway. See, he's just self-centered. He just can't see beyond what is in front of his face. So I don't want to say he's this a terrible person as much as he is a buffoon. Like, he's just the village idiot in that sense, where you can't see that, oh yeah, OP having a miscarriage is going to be a sad time. Let's not start popping bottles for your baby right now. But the top comments always give us good food for thought. Let's go ahead and see if we can get some entertainment out of that controversial section right now. So they saying, no antagonist here. He was too giddy with joy to understand how grief-struck you were, and you were too grief-struck to feel any joy. The timing was crap all around. I do kind of agree with that, but I understand why we can give the brother some flack. But the next reply to that was, so giddy with joy that he had no sense of empathy, and even to this day, he apparently can't comprehend why anyone wouldn't be happy for him or feel sad at their own loss. There's a word for people that can't see beyond themselves. Antagonist. Very true. So, more downvoted controversial posts saying, they're just making fun of the AMIA, AGTS, AF. See, that the one thing I'll say is I think they're trying to do some SEO stuff to try to get this to rank on Google, which I don't like that. And the next reply was, I can't even read your solid wall of text. I use mobile and it's completely possible to have paragraph breaks. Please use them in future posts. And I understand why they got downvotes, because it is a very... it's not helpful for this post right here, because it's not helping the conversation, but that was a hard read. Like, I mean, I'm not the best reader myself, but it did kind of hop around a little bit. But aside from that, just going over to Decoy Court, where we're giving our, you know, somewhat knee-jerk reaction to the situation is, yeah, I'm not going to go ahead and say that OP has every right to be furious at the brother. The brother, I don't think was being malicious, but just was so wrapped up in his own world, and it just seems like not a sociopath, but just the kind of person that can only look out for themselves and only see it in their perspective, where it's like, why wouldn't anybody be happy for my relationship? Why wouldn't anybody be ecstatic because I'm doing so good in life right now? That they totally just ignored the sister, ignored OP right here. It's pretty messed up, so I do understand why they would get irritated at it, especially when they compound that with the idea that years later, they're still not able to acknowledge it. I'd actually kind of like be more upset with not as much in the moment of them, like, you know, totally blasting OP's moment of sadness, but later on, like, oh yeah, well, you still mad about that time? I totally did you wrong. So I'm gonna go ahead and say that yes, there's no antagonist here. I'm not going as far as letting that other guy off the hook saying there's no antagonist here, because he genuinely was the jerk in this situation. Like, he needs to be able to read the room. He has months to be able to announce his pregnancy. He doesn't have to do it in her lowest moment of her life at age 21 at the point in time, so that's super messed up. But, you know, as we're kind of trying something different, like, we're gonna theme these posts right now, or these stories. Like, this one was all about kind of family fights, and we'll do something about like relationships or maybe about money. But I mean, let me know in the comments down below, and maybe make sure you guys are subscribing as well if you like this kind of content. It's a longer video. We'll do one video a day, change the thumbnail up a bit. I'm still trying to figure out how to get my subscribership up, but I mean, as always, if you're making it this far, you're seeing the likes, you're seeing the hearts, make sure you guys are also liking it as well. Maybe sharing it with someone that you think might like this kind of podcasty, ranty commentary thing I got going on over here. Most of the other Reddit readers are either one, a robot, or two, a cartoon character, which makes me think that they might still be a robot. So if you like seeing my face and getting my genuine opinion, what I'm willing to put my face next to, make sure you subscribe down below. But if anything else, go ahead and watch the next video of DecoyNoise coming up next.